Hello and welcome to another episode of Judge of Character. As always, I'm your host, Steve. Now, for those of you who grew up in the 80s and 90s, when I say the name Don Bluth, what's the first word that comes to mind? If you said anything other than genius, something is seriously wrong with you. For those of you who are too young to remember, or even know, Don Bluth is an animator who was famous during the 80s and 90s for his animated films, including The Land Before Time, Rock-a-Doodle, An American Tail, and of course, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Originally working for Disney, Bluth struck out on his own on a mission to show people, including Disney, what traditional animated films were capable of. And he did not fail. For the next several years, Bluth's films would go on to be some of the most remembered pieces of animation in years, rivaling Disney both in animation quality and story. In fact, Don Bluth's films would actually inspire Disney to step up the game, so to speak, for their own films, which in turn led to what we know as the Disney Renaissance era of animation. You know, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, etc., etc. But this also had the side effect of causing animation all across the board to step up their own game, leading to what we know as the overall Renaissance era of animation. So, in effect, Don Bluth was actually responsible for that wonderful period of time when animation was really at its best. Unfortunately, Bluth wouldn't get to really enjoy his success. As a result of his films forcing Disney to do better, Bluth eventually found he couldn't compete. In addition, his films started to become more and more of a victim of executive meddling, leading to a decline in quality in later years. Eventually, Bluth became more and more of a recluse. But even then, his films are fondly remembered amongst many for their high-quality animation, wonderful storylines, and well-written characters. And tonight, we're going to look at one of the most well-known and remembered characters from one of Don Bluth's best-known films. Ladies and gentlemen, let's learn more about Mrs. Brisby from The Secret of NIMH. The Secret of NIMH is Don Bluth's most famous and iconic work, and is often considered to be his masterpiece. And it's not hard to see why. The film is simply beautiful with its stunning artwork. Add in a wonderful score, a story that blends both science fiction and fantasy, and well-written characters, and you have a movie that I honestly believe will stand the test of time. While the film initially didn't do well in the theaters, having a very limited release, it found a place in home video, where it eventually made back its budget, in addition to gaining a large and firm following. If you've never seen this film, you need to go fix it. Right now. Go out and find a copy and watch it. I swear you will not be disappointed. Anyway, who is Mrs. Brisby, and why is she a memorable character? Mrs. Brisby is the main character of the film, a field mouse who lives in the fields of Farmer Fitzgibbon with her family. Her son Timmy is ill with pneumonia and is unable to move for another 3 weeks. Which is really inconvenient for the rest of the family, as it is plowing season, and if the family doesn't move, they are all going to be suffering from a really bad case of death. Okay, that was a bad joke. Moving on. In desperation, Mrs. Brisby is told to seek out the Great Owl for advice on what she should do. He in turn tells her to seek out the Rats of NIMH, a group of rodents who reside in the rosebush not far from her home, and who are also genetically modified to be super intelligent thanks to the meddling of NIMH. That is the National Institute of Mental Health, for those of you who don't know. Learn something new every day, huh? Along the way, Mrs. Brisby faces all sorts of nightmarish obstacles, from cats to humans, all in an attempt to save her family. Now, admittedly, there's actually not quite as much to talk about with this character as with others, but damn it, she's still awesome, so I'm gonna do my best here. Let's start with her personality.
I must be crazy.
As you would expect from a field mouse, Mrs. Brisby is a very timid creature, easily frightened and quick to scurry away from danger. And again, when something like a cat looks like this from your world perspective, you'd probably scurry too.
Oh!
Yeah, this is why I'm a dog person.
Okay, who brought the dog?
I can't win! Anyway, while her timidness is only a small part of who she is as a character, it does play a much larger role in how she becomes awesome later, so keep that in mind. Another element of the character is her kindness and her caring nature. Mrs. Brisby is very much of a kind-hearted individual, willing to help others whenever possible. While this element of the character is really only shown in regards to her family, it's not entirely absent in other areas. Even though he can be an insufferable klutz at times, Brisby is more than willing to help Jeremy the Crow. Even though crows eat mice. And another thing, have you noticed how nobody ever calls her anything but Mrs. Brisby or Mrs. Jonathan Brisby? This is actually something to take note of. Throughout the movie, she's only ever referred to as either Mrs. Brisby or as Mrs. Jonathan Brisby, in reference to her late husband, who also escaped from the labs of Nim and is considered to be a hero amongst many of the woodland creatures. Why is this something of note? Because if it weren't for her late husband's fame, she'd likely have never gotten the help she needed and her family would have died. Now, I don't know why, but something about that just kind of always rubbed me the wrong way. Though, not as bad as people just calling her Mrs. Brisby.
Yes, you're Mrs. Brisby.
Brisby. Mrs. Jonathan Brisby?
Mrs. Jonathan Brisby?
Yes, the same.
I mean, come on, people. She has a name. It's... Trisha? No. Sarah? No.
Ashley. Emily. Amanda.
Autumn. Rosa.
Sarah.
Agnes.
Sandra? Vera. You know, as in Vera Lynn. We'll meet again.
Pamela.
Bulma.
Tweety.
Helga.
Cleopatra. No?
Cora? No,
Anna Wanda. Annette.
Shania.
Mary.
Susie, Judy, Ruby, Betty, Betsy, Bessie, Lucy, Cindy, Sarah, Wendy, Daphne,
Margaret, maybe. Tracy? Sandra?
Mary G.
Mary.
Paris Hilton.
Akane.
Sabrina, Laura, Tracy, Anna,
Andrea, Lauren, Kimberly,
Barbara Gordon.
Hope. Trini.
Let's see. Princess Mononoke?
Clara, Perry,
Anastasia. Anastasia. No.
Rhoda, Maud, Leia, Padme,
Mandy, Sandy, Candy, Brandy, Missy, Sissy, Chrissy, Natalie. Am I in the ballpark?
Jessica Charlene Francois III.
May as well guess it, Rumpelstiltskin. Let's see.
Am I anywhere in the ballpark? The plates, the dugout, the nosebleeds. Am I anywhere in the stadium? Am I getting tickets? Am I getting nachos? Am I getting stuck in the freeway on the way to the game? Am I trying to watch the game at home, but I can't because my cable's out because I haven't paid my bill in 3 months, so I can go over to my neighbor's house and watch it, but no, he's watching NASCAR and I just want to know what the damn mouse's name is!
Okay, fine, I don't know her name. We'll just stick with Mrs. Brisby. Damn!
Oh, Elizabeth! Why didn't I guess that?
Now, why do these 2 points of her personality, her timidness and kind-heartedness, matter? They don't seem to add much to the understanding of the character, right? Well, actually they do. A lot of the story is based on the power of both love and courage, and in order to understand that, you have to realize that these are both a major part of the character. Brisby's love for her family is what ends up saving them in the end, and despite her timid and fearful nature, she does what is necessary for them, hence the courage. Which leads me to the major point in favor of the character. I'm sure you all know it's coming, so say it with me. She's a badass. Okay, I know I say that word a lot. Badass, badass, badass. But I'm afraid I might have misled many of you into thinking wrongly of what constitutes a badass and how one qualifies. You see, when we think of a badass, we often tend to think of some sort of action movie Arnold Schwarzenegger type, with guns blazing and heavy metal music. But the truth is, you can be a badass simply by standing up for what you know is right. That old man from the Avengers counts simply because he stood up to Loki and refused to kneel. Although he is overshadowed by the friggin' Avengers, but hey, kudos to you, man, you got balls. Mrs. Brisby is a prime example of that other type of badass, the kind that doesn't do it because she's some sort of action hero. She's a badass by nature of her own fear. Watch this movie again. Throughout the whole film, Brisby is absolutely terrified, facing dangers that would normally paralyze a mouse in utter fear. But despite this, she still manages to push forward, all in order to save her family. This is why her timid personality is important to remember. She's a mouse, and so by nature she avoids dangers like these. And yet here she is, trying to drug cats and facing off against machinery in order to protect her children. Another thing to mention is that throughout the film, Mrs. Brisby never uses a weapon. As the film goes on, you see the rats use swords and knives and such, but you never see Mrs. Brisby pick up a weapon, not once. That's because she has an entirely different set of weapons at her disposal. What are those weapons? Bravery, intelligence, resilience, and of course, heart.
And from South America, my tea with the power of heart.
Oh god, not that. Anyway, while these weapons might not seem like much, they are in fact very important, especially the heart, which we'll just say means love. Without these elements, Mrs. Brisby would have never been able to do anything, especially without love. Later in the film, she receives a medallion from Nicodemus, the leader of the Rats of Nim. At first, it doesn't seem like anything more than just a piece of jewelry. But when her home and family sinks beneath a mud puddle and into certain doom, the medallion comes alive and grants Mrs. Brisby the power to save her children. Via telekinesis. So, telekinesis is just the power of love? I forgot. I'm a heartless bastard. So with the power of love, no, not that, although that was an awesome movie, Mrs. Brisby manages to save her family, and of course, they all live happily ever after. Or do they? Yeah, they do. So what makes Mrs. Brisby such a memorable character? I'm not gonna lie, the only major thing that Mrs. Brisby has going for her is that special kind of badass she possesses. Otherwise, people mostly remember her because of the film itself. And now that's not a bad thing, as The Secret of Nim is a fantastic movie that should be seen by all. But as far as the character herself, all she has is her resilience. But, in all honesty, that's enough. Seeing Mrs. Brisby going through all she has to do to save her family while still being absolutely frightened is memorable because it shows us something important. It shows us that we don't have to be some muscle-bound, gun-toting action star to be a badass. Sometimes, all we have to do is face our fears and do what we know in our hearts needs to be done. As long as we can stand up against our own insecurities and fears, we can do anything. Which is more than enough to make her a memorable character. Although this does make me realize that, while there are so many memorable characters out there, not all of them are going to give me a full episode. I mean, I really had to stretch for this one. If only there was a way for me to talk about these lesser-known characters and still give them the same level of appreciation they deserve. Well, I'm your host Steve, reminding all of you to stay in character. Now, if you don't mind, I've got my own fears I have to face.
Got it. Winifred. Winifred. That is one of the most unique names I've ever heard. If you name a character Winifred, you're gonna remember the character by the name alone. In fact, it's the only other character I can remember that's called Winifred is Mrs. Banks from Mary Poppins.
Christine, Michelle, Naomi. Yeah, I think that's about it.
I got Naomi with polka daggers. No, not her. Cameron? No. Nikki, Brie Bella, the Bella twins?
Andrea. Lauren. Kimberly. Giovanna? Yeah, no, it's a weird one.
Mary. Bonquiqui.
La Dasha! The dash is silent. Maria! Belladonna Con Vasquez.
I think we're done here. It's good times.